an introduction towards the root cause of the problem. And I hope, and I am pretty much sure with the given set of resource persons in the faculty development program, uh, everyone here is bound to get a very seasoned view of what is urban resilience and how to build the urban resilient communities. So without going too much into the technicalities, which is really the expertise and arena of the experts that are going to speak further, here I am set to set the tone of the FDP, and I would like to introduce and also briefly articulate what is the exact problem that is happening in the context of Indian urban contours. So the topic that I've chosen is urbanization, from urbanization to regionalization, which is a test of the Indian resident. So we all are a very learned set of people here already having researched a lot and already having years of experience towards the urban architectural and design sector. But what really is urbanization has been a very big question for all the contemporary researchers, and it has been widely debated in all the literature that is available. But if we decode it in very simplest of terms, urbanization really means a continuous process of the sprawl of the urban areas that literally transform the adjacent or the adjoining or even tangential sometimes rural areas into urban ones. And in such a process, there are certain indicators or certain aspects that are always evolving. Out of which the most interesting one, especially very much relevant to Indian context, is the change in the land use, where the change usually happens from agricultural land use to either residential land use or mixed land use, or even at times commercial land use. And which is a very common sign, I would say, in almost all the Indian cities. And we will be also decoding the various aspects and problems with that in future further slides. There is also a sudden change, I wouldn't say sudden, but a gradual change in the economic activities, which transform from primary activities to secondary, that is from agricultural to agriculturally allied activities, and then to service industry, that is the tertiary sector, which is the ultimate juncture of the economic activities in such urban areas or urbanizing areas. There is, of course, a very much a surge in the demand for infrastructure, be it physical infra, be it social infra. There's always the demand is always rising. And subsequently, to cater that demand, the municipalities or the administrative setup tries to establish higher order amenities to cater that demand. But importantly, not many I would say, at least Indian literature or urban planning literature have tried to address the issue of food system. What happens really when urban sprawl eats rural land use or rural areas? Like I said, there is a land use change from agricultural setup to agricultural land use to residential or commercial land use. The agricultural land use goes on decreasing, and subsequently the villages that really feed the city through their food, through their crops, through their grains, these food systems go disrupted, these food systems go disturbed, and hence there is more and more no, the need to import food in the city increases, which is becoming much of a larger issue. We will, of course, discuss that in further slides as well. But just to give you a context, now that I've been studying a little bit of European context of this, European cities or European textures, contours have gone urban almost to 99.9%. There is the 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 concept of rural areas is quite rare to find in European context, and that is because of the predominant industrialization that has happened and predominant urbanization that has happened. But today, just because of this, Europe has to import its food, import its grains from Africa, and this gives an idea on how big a soft power India could be in terms of the interplay between urbanization and also the food systems. Now, moving ahead, there are, of course, administrative changes. As a rural area gets converted into urban area, it subsequently becomes a part of some municipal setup and also sometimes metropolitan setup. And there are the evident administrative changes to cater that particular change. And it is very fair to say, given at the data, given just looking at the surroundings in any Indian city, it's very fair to say that urbanization is very much a mega trend of this particular century for India, given its demographic context as well. Young and young generations are coming forward, and the economic activity is only denote towards urbanization being a big, what do I say, as a mega trend of the century. But there is a paradigm shift in the vision of the urban practitioners that this urbanization is really not urbanization anymore, and it is a regionalization which is converting cities into city regions, and which is something very complex and hard to explore. There are certain pictures. One of them is a very beloved picture of mine, which I always use in almost all the presentations and lectures I offer, because it's from a city which is very close to my heart. That is the city of Pune. So this picture really denotes the urban sprawl that is taking place. We can see a hill, which is the very famous Varje Hill in Pune, and also green lungs, green spaces being surrounded or almost all being captured by the concrete jungle, which is a very favorite term for everyone almost. And if we take a comparative look with the largest metropolitan area on this planet, that is Tokyo, it is, sorry to say, at least for me, very disturbing to the eyes. The every space being conquered and captured, um, the concrete buildings and concrete blocks. Now, if we anyway wish to observe urbanization, which is a very common thing, that the drones are very common these days. If we if we peep out of the window of our flight when it takes off or is about to land, we can really gradually observe the patches of urbanization as we move towards the city. And if we wish to observe it like the humans that we always do, if we are sitting in a train, when train departs, usually the window will show you how gradually the transformation is happening. And when you are arriving at a major junction, or I would like to say, when you are beginning to observe kachare ke dher, it is when you start experiencing urbanization. Moving ahead, urbanization, or what we call as regionalization, especially in India, there are certain facts and figures. But to start off with a very generalistic statement, India is urbanizing rapidly. Back in the time, Mahatma Gandhi has given a quote about Indian urbanization. And of course, at his relevant times, Indian urbanization be bringing out death to Indian villages. And it's very debatable, really, as to how true is that sentence in 2022. But it is very fair to say that India has been urbanizing rapidly without being too critical or without being too romantic about it. So, and there are certain facts and figures that support this claim that how rapid urbanization has been taking place. We just take a look at the data that is thrown outside for the out of the literature. And this is, I think, common almost in every lecture that we hear about urban planning. So it's really a cliche statement by now that 35% of Indians today live in urban areas, and by 2050, the shares is set to become 50%. Very recently, we overtook China as the most populous country on this planet, and that also is having its own impacts on urbanization. If you take a look at the trends over the last around 60 years, the population in the urban areas has doubled from 18% to 35%, which again denotes the rapid nature of urbanization. And the urbanization space, or the nature of urbanization is so rigorous that even during pandemic, where most of the time we were sitting in lockdowns, Still, during the pandemic, the urban population rose by around 2.32%. And if at most of the times, especially when I'm talking with my colleagues from overseas or such scholars from foreign, uh, 2.32% looks a very small figure. Then I have to explain that for us, it's like we are a country with 1.5 billion, and for us, every person is equal to 15 lakh. That is 1.5 million. So 2.32% is really a big figure when you decode the percentage into the units, so to say. Now, what does it mean, or how do these figures translate into the city's perspective that is widely available across the literature as well? That the latest census, unfortunately, back in 2011, and the latest census, although it's being carried out as a digital census, the figures and data available are from 2011's census, and they show that there were around 53 cities with a million plus, with a 10 lakh plus population, which is a very huge number and is set to rise to 87, which is a projected figure in 2030. Um, this is also considering the impositions put forth by COVID-19. Now, the recent COP27, which was very much in news and very much in talk because of India's stand there about taking out really the lifestyle into account when it comes to environmental sustainability. So even at the COP, they discussed about how the population projections, how the carrying capacities, and how the number of cities are shaping out in terms of the impositions put forth by COVID-19. It's a very interesting happening across the global circles of planning environment. Uh, like I had mentioned in the previous slide, the the factors such as, say, rural to urban migration, even population growth, increase in economic activities, have been pushing cities to extend their limits. As you know, more and more rural areas are we are having to merge the rural areas into municipal limits, and that are causing to extend the municipal limits beyond their original defined or demarcated areas. And this is causing cities to becoming city regions, and it is posing new spatial imaginaries and also challenges. And this effect of cities becoming city regions is in fact what we call regionalization, and is the current trend in Indian urban sector, urbanization circles. And we really have to adopt the mindset of approaching it as a regionalization than just the urbanization, which is a becoming more and more an outdated term. But there is an interesting fact about Indian urbanization, which is a very complex and a very interesting topic to decode for a lot of scholars, a lot of researchers. But one of the key conclusions about Indian urbanization is that it is not natural, and it is in fact artificial. Now, what do I mean when I say the Indian urbanization is natural, or it is in fact artificial? That it is a byproduct of rural to urban migration, and not the actual original native birth rate. Because we know that in India, the rate of migration is uh, more pushy, with more force than the original birth rate of any given city. And hence, it becomes a byproduct of rural-urban migration than being a natural organic growth of a particular city. Now, moving ahead, what is the present scenario of Indian cities in terms of population first, and then in terms of some policy challenges? And like I said in the very beginning, um, My lecture is going to be more about problems, and very less about solutions, because that is how I approach it for an introductory lecture, because the solutions are going to be given by expert resource persons in the coming parts of the FDP. But it is very important for us to also give a pinch to ourselves and take a look at these figures, which also can be distributed among your students who are going to be urban practitioners and even rural practitioners in coming years. So the urban population, like I said, in India stands at 377 millions. And in terms of population, as of now, it is 31% to 35% in that bracket. But interestingly, it contributes to around 63% of the GDP. And as we all know, that the latest figures show that India is the fifth largest economy in the world and is bound to take a giant leap in the years to come. And if the fifth largest economy is 63% of GDP comes from urban population, then you get the seriousness of what we are dealing with as urban practitioners or urban planners. In terms of cities, there were around 9 cities with a population more than 50 lakhs, and out of which 5 are having a population more than 10 millions, that is 1 crore. And like I said, out of the 53 cities, around 53 cities are million plus, and 49 falling between 0.5, that is 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs population, which gives you the future scenario as well. We have 49 more giants in the pipeline waiting for serving us with opportunities and even certain problems. The figure here shows in a conceptual bubble sort of a diagram the number of cities and their sizes and the inhabitants that they have. And this is according to 2018, of course, before COVID-19. It really is to give you the scenario of how things have been shaping up. If you take a comparative look with the urban and rural population in India, because it is a certain aspect when you are bound to study urban communities, we can see a very distinguishing difference between both the populations. Urban population has been on the rise, and the rural population has become steady. In fact, is projected to become more and more steady in the years to come. And the urban population, however, is almost exponentially growing in the years to come, say 2030, 2040, and even in 2050. That is 25 years down the line from now. Now, taking a sharp turn towards the administrative setup from the population perspective, it is the 74th constitutional amendment that really is sort of a Bhagavad Gita for the urban local bodies that are set up in, in next. And urban local bodies are absolutely dependent on state governments, which is again policy debate that goes on and on in India, that whether planning should be a state subject or it should be a central subject, or it should be in fact a synergy in certain aspects going here and there. But the truth of the day is that 74th constitutional amendment is in place and is to be interpreted by states in the fashion that they like. This has a certain role to play in the financial stress that the cities have been experiencing to provide basic amenities to these figures, these population figures. They need basic amenities to survive, and then only the resilience and so on and so forth could come. Resilience, sustainability, green economy, and all those concepts. So these cities have been experiencing a immaculate financial stress and have been failing almost to provide basic amenities. And urbanization is also causing disproportion between property tax and civic amenities provision, like I said. When we come down to an individual or a household unit from this population perspective, we have to take into account things like property tax and even provision of civic amenities. So this looks like a disproportionate affair in most of the Indian cities. For example, I have been researching a lot about the city of Pune and its urbanization. So over the multiple years, city of Pune has grown out of its limits because there are no typical geographical barriers like Mumbai, and the disproportion between property tax collection and the provision of civic amenities is quite evident in the areas that are closer to the city core and the areas that are on falling on the peripheral side, or what we call the peri-urban areas. And that is pretty much the case almost in say cities like Chennai and even cities in Uttar Pradesh. Even Indore is in villages, and is also getting the communities to those areas. Now, interestingly, I would like to dwell more into the case of Delhi NCT, which I believe is a little more familiar. This is at times a challenge for any give a lecture, so to say, in an Indian context, because and it is very much true that every city in India is different in its own way, in its own trend. So it becomes very difficult for us to give a particular example that everyone can relate with the same gravity, with the due seriousness. Because there's one thing common about Indian city. Hence, I took the risk of taking Delhi NCT's case. I'm sorry if I sound too Delhi-centric in this, which is again a issue of debate about planning circles being Delhi-centric and always doing Delhi. But the master plan that is again under process is envisioning Delhi to become a global metropolis and a world-class city, and it is also supported by the regional plan, uh, which is actually towards hitting the stimuli of growth, the growth impulse of Delhi, and then integrate the various functionalities or functions that happen in the urban contours and the rural contours of the entire region. And they have proposed a six-tier hierarchy of settlements, which is a very interesting set to study for any researcher or scholar in urban planning and allied sectors. But when we look at say regional plan of 2021, or say even other relevant planning documents, it is very pertinent for us to look at the history. And without going too much into the textual affair here, I would like to simply quote what was taught to me by one of my dear professors from SP Delhi, that when Delhi was being planned, the concept was to develop workplaces. The concept was to develop places, really. If you have ever been to Delhi or have been visiting Delhi frequently, you will hear a lot about places. That is Connaught Place, Nehru Place, Madam Kama Place, and like really the places. And these places were envisioned to be really the workplaces or the centers wherein thousands of people will come daily, and there'll be employment hubs where they will work and they will do their occupational things. And these workplaces will be supplemented by residential areas surrounding them. And hence, we can see a lot of colonies, small colonies. Of course, has a lot of things to do with the poor, I wouldn't say refugees, but poor Indians that had to undergo a lot of extreme affairs in Pakistan. Then they had to travel to Delhi after 1947, after the independence, the horrors of partition, and the colonies in Delhi have certain influence of that as well. But what happened is that this was the proposal, to have the places in place and then supplementing them or complementing them with the residential areas. A very good, very pink, very, what do I say, romantic proposal on paper. But when it comes to implementation, it took a lot of years to implement. And the projections that were made, of course, do not hold true in the year when it was actually getting implemented. And what happened then? By that time, the crisscross traffic has already started because people won't stop. People will have to work. People have to have the jobs, and urbanization doesn't stop for your political affairs. Urbanization goes on. And hence, if we see in Delhi today, everyone is doing Delhi to Noida, Delhi to Gurgaon, Delhi to Vaishali, Ghaziabad, Faridabad, Rohini, crisscross, 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 and hence the traffic and hence the pollution in Delhi. So this is the story behind really the case of Delhi. Uh, and like there were other proposals, of course, the planning proposals, scientific proposals such as balanced development and minimizing the frictions, like I said, which in fact got maximized crisscross traffic. But if we take into account the urban congestion or the traffic congestion in Delhi, it is costing us around 10 billion US dollars per annum. Loss of person hours is a different case altogether. Again, the loss of economy is huge as 10 billion US dollars. And if we carefully decode the arterial roads that were planned in Delhi, which were um, which were found to be around, recorded at 27 kilometers per hour speed, which is actually 60% lower than the speed for which they were designed. So this is the case when planning is not supported with implementation, and especially on a regional scale, like the national capital region, or in fact, even in the case of the national capital territory. So this is this through this slide, I wanted to hint towards the seriousness of dealing cautiously with the metropolis or dealing cautiously with the region. How small things also can cause issues which could be carcinogenic, just like a cancer. They could grow and then cause a lot of things to your economy, to your environment, to your social status, to your physical infrastructure as well. Moving ahead, this slide is all about throwing stats and giving problems that are there. I would go with the pollution first, of course. Around 15 most polluted cities. Some sources state that 14 out of those polluted cities are Indian. Which is one of the prime sources for this information is the World Health Organization, of course, but there are certain other indicators and measurements also. But according to World Health Organization, it was found that 14 of the 15 most polluted cities on the planet, 14 are Indian. And if you take a look at the congestion as well, out of 10 most congested cities on this planet, 4 are Indian. And most congested city planet was found in Bangalore, Bengaluru, which is the startup hotbed. And in a startup hotbed, you have people working daily commuters, and even working age population is bound to be higher. And hours these working population spend become very important in terms of efficiency on economic efficiency. But because of the traffic congestion, 60 crore person hours are annually lost in Bangalore. If we put these 60 crore person hours to use in terms of infrastructure development, economy, or even to take rest as a part of the mental health, it could do wonders. If we come to the economic welfare loss, the World Bank has estimated that around 7.7% of our GDP is lost for air pollution. majority of our metropolises that contribute to the economy suffering from air pollution. And like I had said in my previous slide, the percent has a big value for us. So 7.7% hit is massive hit. If you take a look at the unitary figure, that is in terms of money, 22 billion US dollars is an estimated figure by the World Bank again. I don't know why World Bank is estimating the figures in US dollars when it says World Bank anyway. But four major metropolises, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Bangalore, 22 US dollars per billion per annum is the loss. Now, when we come to the infrastructural demands or infrastructural gaps that are lying ahead of us, especially when we are set to build the urban resilient communities, we have to take into account these demands because when we say resilience, it certainly denotes towards our future as well. As in, we have to be robust as a city, we have to be robust as a community, fight back against all the challenges time and again, and have the ability and capacity to overcome all the challenges and still remain in a good shape in terms of community development. So it becomes important for us to understand each other. And the understanding shows us that the demand supply gap for clean water is about to increase by 3.5 times. And 3.5 times it was in 2007 to 94 billion liters per day by 2030, given the increase in population in urban areas. The demand supply gap in sewage also is a horrific figure. It's going to be doubled by 109 billion liters per day. In terms of solid waste management, the demand supply gap is bound to be quadruple. It is going to be at 82 million tons per annum. And the most concerning or alarming thing for me out of all these figures is the shortfall in affordable housing units is going to rise to 38 million units. And these figures are um, projected for 2030. But 38 million units shortage is a very massive shortage. And of course, I mean, it's not about every housing unit, it's about affordable housing unit. Housing units could be constructed, but they'll have to be affordable for population of India. And looking at these staggering figures about housing units, it was Indian government's policy, that is the Housing for All policy, that was a evolution of other housing policies in the previous years. But this is the staggering figure, 38 million units short of the required figure is also hinting us towards establishments of slums in the urban areas, and then again causing the damages that they cause to urban area. What are the challenges set by urbanization and in bracket regionalization? The latest Niti Aayog report that came out about building urban capacities showed us that 65% of the urban settlements, notified towns, according to census, do not have a master plan. It shows this is a big slap, tight slap on us as an urban practitioners, as urban planners, that around 8,000 urban settlements don't have a plan. So it's really hard to talk about resilience when we are inexistent, frankly. The latest budget, which was presented by Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she spoke about modernizing the building bylaws, and also, I think it's a very dear story to my heart because I was able to contribute to this budget, especially towards the urban policy factors. Say because I was an active employee at the parliament that time, that the housing and urban affairs, if we are set to decode, uh, The urban density that is coming out after the building regulations that are imposed is something very interesting. And building regulations are not up to date as of now. They are still a result of the colonized past of India. If you take in terms of FSIs, that is the certain, I think it is also called FAR, but FSI or building bylaws and other regulatory frameworks showcase us towards the number of houses available and also the push of the property prices, which is again a very big equation for urban areas. But the modernization of these building bylaws is very big a challenge than probably it looks like on the slide. But these, if these frameworks are made modern and Indian, more Indian, and towards by taking into account a city-specific context, and also curbing the rigidity of the plans that are in place. What happens today is if we take a look at the master planning process, first of all, it takes a lot of time. And then when we, at least in some parts of the country, especially in Maharashtra, if we say, if we seal the deal of the master plan, if the master plan is finally out, there is no way we can renew that plan at gradual intervals. The only way you can make amendments to a plan is by filing PIL and so on and so forth. They say that Singapore happens to be the world's best planned space, world's best planned city. And I found one of the interesting reasons behind that is that they have a reviewing or renewal window scope uh, for their master plan to be updated every 3 years, 2 years, of course, given in the given horizon period. So what happens in an Indian city in case of a master plan with 20 years of horizon period? So the master plan has all the beautiful things written in it, and it is also being implemented. I doubt that, but religiously by the authorities. And suddenly there is a thing like catastrophe like COVID-19. What do you do with your master plan then? We can't do anything because that document is simply not helpful in times of COVID-19. Because one, of course, it's very difficult, but it could not predict COVID-19. And even if it could, there are no measurements written in that master plan to curb the effects of COVID-19. So to allow or enable that particular scope to understand the situationality of problems in cities, we have to have a reviewing system every 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, at a phased manner in the master plan. That is what I meant by rigidity of plan. Sorry for taking much of time about that. But moving ahead, like I said, about the shortfall in affordable housing units, the affordability also has a lot to do with microfinancing, mortgage financing, and ability for income LIGs has to improve, which is a challenge as of proliferation of slums has been a big challenge as well, as we all know, and there are certain deficiencies in terms of regulations, governance, policy, and planning about that. And this is again a very, what do I say, deep issue to discuss. It would probably require 10, 15 lectures to decode this, but haphazard and unauthorized constructions in peri-urban areas where a developer formulates nexus with the mukhya of a village, and a village especially which is lying on the periphery of a city where there are no building bylaws because it is not formally under a municipal council or municipal corporation. We can see a lot of 25, 30 meters of building coming up with an access road of 2 meters, which is a big trouble when the residents in that building are going to have cars. So this is what I meant by haphazard and unauthorized constructions. And I'll take the risk of saying one more thing because we are in an academic space right now and we are discussing academic issues. The issue related to unauthorized constructions is one more, and that is freebies given by politicians when the elections are around. A lot of times, the penalties imposed on the unauthorized constructions are waived off because the people are either too dearly to the politicians or Of course, they formulate a big vote bank. And in terms of even the unauthorized constructions related to slums, one fine day they're all regularized because, hey, elections are around. And this has been the case no matter what um, politician is in office and no matter at what level. Um so this is something which is very tricky for all the urban practitioners and urban researchers. Although I'm a very optimistic person, but I don't see any solution to overcome the political brainies. Anyway, moving ahead, if we are discussing about urban communities, it is very important for us to also understand the municipal issues that are surrounding, because these areas are governed by them. The Niti Aayog shows that the municipal revenue crunch is an alarming issue for us, and around uh, 40 trillion Indian rupees are required until 2030 for adequate infrastructure. And if we put together the revenue of all the municipal corporations, revenue that they generate is just 1% of the GDP. And if you remember, I also told you about the loss of GDP due to air pollution is 7.7%. Although these two are two different things, but GDP remains a common uh, uh, aspect here. 7.7% of GDP lost in air pollution, and the revenue of municipal corporations is contributing only 1%. So this is the contrast that we are having to deal today. And the interesting factor, which is very serious, that 50% of the expenditure of all the ULBs is made on running themselves in terms of administrative costs and even the maintenance and salaries and whatnot and whatnot. Uh, this is one of the ending notes of my presentation, which is something that I've been researching in my PhD, and is a very important factor for us as a ultra-developing nation, just developing nation. Like I had said, 53 metropolises, and there are only 14 metropolises to envision the vision of 74th Constitutional Amendment. What do I mean by metropolitan bodies? There are bodies like MMRD, Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority, PMRDA, for example, DA is also there. So these metropolitan bodies are set up according to the 74th Constitutional Amendment. There is a provision in that. Uh, Quickly, I will also say something about metropolises. The Article 243 C or some clause defines of the Indian Constitution defines a metropolis as an urban area as an area that is having a million plus population for more urban areas, municipal units, and has to be declared as a metropolitan area by the governor of that particular state. So Indian Constitution is absolutely visionary on defining metropolises, which is very rare, even in the cases of the constitutions of developed nations. So this is something that we have to be proud of, that our policymakers were at least visionary enough about this. But the problem lies, like I said, at the implementation level, and the religious implementation of the 74th Constitutional Amendment still lies a big problem, especially in the metropolitan governance context, because one of the key aspects of metropolitan governance, as far as 74th CAA is concerned, that it is supposed to enable a metropolitan planning committee wherein two-thirds of the representatives should be elected representatives and one-third should be the technical experts. And this committee should take decision, and the bureaucrats sitting in the should implement. What happens in most of the cases is there is a metropolitan authority first, then there is a brilliant IAS officer who's probably done BA Fine Arts in his graduation and has given an outdated exam to become commissioner of a planning body. And we, being postgraduates and doctorates in urban planning, have to, anyway, it's a debatable topic to debate against bureaucrats. But bureaucrat first, commissioner, then there is a guardian minister, at least in the case of Maharashtra, guardian minister, then there is urban development minister, then there is chief minister, and then there are central guidelines. And in this power play, the whole purpose of public participation, MPC, gets lost. So it is this lobby that takes decisions for a metropolis than the people of the metropolis, and which I see as a crisis of democracy at the metropolitan scale. So this is the challenge in the urbanization scenario in India, and it is bound to increase in cases of the transport corridors, which is the prominent policy of current government, and it's a very ambitious project of connecting two bigger metropolises, that is through industrial corridors, that is Delhi Mumbai industrial corridors. Uh, to sum it up in short about the corridors, I would like to say that the uh, corridors are a trans-scalar entity. They pass through villages, they pass through districts, cities, towns, states. For example, DMIC passes through 6 states. So the corridor doesn't know any scales, and it is bound to spill over its effects. If what is a transport corridor? It's a highway. So if a highway is going, there's bound to happen that it is bound to happen that there's going to be a industry setup on the banks of that particular highway. Then industry has workers, workers need residential facilities, then there are residential facilities coming up. Then to supplement them, you have to have other amenities and other infrastructure. So this results in a sprawl, artificial sprawl, which is very new for the rural setup that is adjacent to the highways. So this is a metropolitan problem where a mother body is required to take care of the existing municipal corporations, growing municipal councils, and also peri-urban villages that are often left out. So these are some policy issues that are probably going to be a big challenge for us to build resilience. And like I said about public participation in 74th Constitutional Amendment as well, the regional vision is really something to be supported by public participation. Now, I would just go quickly through the opportunities that we have. Certain policies have been made, which we should appreciate really. First is, of course, the affordable housing policy. Then there are policies related to transport. Uh, uh, they're all there. One of the important, most and underrated in urban spaces is national education policy. It also speaks about a lot about development scenario, not just the school and higher education. Um, City-centric efforts and interplay with national missions is also one of the very interesting factor to decode. Uh, but autonomy to city governments still rise as a big question mark as of now. But city level efforts have been emerging. For example, many cities have their own street design guidelines, and it is being supported by central government, especially by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, by competitions such as Streets for People, Cycles for Change, EVs for Future. So, and the competitive nature that is being evolved, that cities have to compete with each other for availing grants from central government, is a healthy competition, a healthy practice that is evolving. Um, there are certain missions that have been launched, and they are contributing a lot for us as a urbanizing nation. That is the Smart Cities Mission, Swachh Bharat, Amrit Hriday, Urban Livelihoods Mission, and of course the PMAY. Finally, it's been a long lecture, but and I know my race is probably against the lunch, so I'll just speak three key factors here to end with my presentation. One is awareness about urban planning is very important. That is what we have been doing you all as teachers and practitioners, but awareness about urban planning in masses is very important for us to build the community resilience, especially in the urban contours. Uh, when I was a student back in bachelor's, I used to hear a lot from my dear friends in computer science or IT, all those fashionable branches, that planning branch has no future, there are no placements, and like that. I used to always use this quote. I don't know if you find it as a value addition, but if 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 we plan for future, planning is done for future, then how can planning not have a future? So it's something that we really need to convince to all those budding people that are coming more and more into urban planning and allied spaces. And the three, uh, what do I say, mantra or the equation could be about the educational institutes popping up, teaching more and more about um, urban planning and development and architecture and design, showcasing the multidisciplinary of the courses, and industry academia interaction could happen at the multidisciplinary level. And then the regulatory reforms at the third part, third field, to kind of develop the resilience in the urban communities. So I think that's it from my side, and I hope it was a value addition for you all. And I look forward to questions. But before that, I would like to, um, of course, mention that these are my contact credentials. Um we can always be in touch, and I'm very much up for offering lectures often. So if there's any scope for collaboration or synergy in whatever capacities, I am always up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the valuable lecture. It was quite enlightening. I would ask all the participants to ask questions, and whatever doubts they have, they can get cleared from Piyush, sir. So all the participants are invited to ask questions.
Mr. Piyush, this side architect Madhuri Agarwal. Your lecture was really very nice and full of a lot of information. Yeah, so we would now request participants to please
Thanks.
come up with the questions for Mr. Piyush.
Piyush sir, is my voice audible to you?
Yes, yes, please.
Your lecture is very enlightening to us. Sir, I want to ask some question. Is there any policy from the government, yeah, any policy from the local bodies which can decrease the effect of urbanization? Is there any policy or guidelines or policy is there so that key urbanization can be controlled or negative effect of urbanization can be controlled?
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Actually, first of all, like as you correctly mentioned in the second half of the question about controlling the urbanization, I think controlling or decreasing the negative effects is the correct way to put it, because we cannot decrease urbanization in a democracy. Everyone is bound to have their aspirations and
I mean the
so on.
negative
So,
effects.
yeah. So yes, one about the policies, one that comes from my experience when I was working in the Parliament of India. I could see a lot of members of parliament and a lot of ministers taking urban planning seriously, and it is a frankly, I had tears in my eyes when for the first time in the independent history of independent India, urban planning was discussed in the budgetary speech for around 60 to 70 seconds. So I had tears in my eyes that thank you for taking us seriously. But like I mentioned, I have also tried to mention a few policies that are there to control really the or the to downsize the effects of urbanization. Affordable housing policy, that is housing for all policy, is already in place. But there are a lot of other policies that are coming up, and they are also having a interplay between modern age, modern day solutions like drones and EVs. Those policies are also coming up. When I say drones, drones are of course very much applicable in urbanization. You know, a lot of surveys and a lot of data collection becomes very easier through drones. So enabling drones to come into urbanization related disciplines is also one of the key policies that is coming up. The other policy that I mentioned is about enabling transport corridors. It's not just the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, but it's also other corridors like Chennai-Bangalore is also on the way. I think Chennai-Visakhapatnam is also on its way. Very recently, Honorable Minister for Transport Nitin Gadkari ji announced a textile corridor between Sholapur in Maharashtra and Surat in Gujarat, which connects these two. So it is, I think the approach of the government looks like towards the decentralization, taking the heat out of the urbanization towards the smaller cities as well. And really, it's like spreading the jam on the button and keeping the jam in the one part. And this one last policy I would like to is, uh, I think it's not something new. It is all about growing satellite towns and containment zones, like for Delhi, Haridwar, and Roorkee, and for envisioned as containment zones. So, in case of a lot of cities, the state governments are taking it for a practice that we have to build counter magnets across the cities. For example, Mumbai has a counter magnet called Thane. Today, Thane needs a counter magnet as well. That's another issue. But I think policies are going towards these things. And the last policy is state uh, representatives or state bodies of Niti Aayog is one of the important steps, I think, because earlier the planning commission was one size shirt fit for all, sitting in Delhi making 5 years plans as if we were living in USSR. But this time we have Niti Aayog, and Niti Aayog is being replicated in states as well. For example, UP, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh have come up with their own state level Niti Aayog, which is a positive step as far as policies are concerned. I think that and tried to answer your question.
There is question from Mr. Ankur. So I would request Mr. Ankur to kindly unmute himself and ask.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, so my question would be regarding the coming up of the new towns. How do you feel like now that we are proposing newer towns like Navi Mumbai or Nawa Raipur in a more planned scale? Do you feel that this could be a possible solution to the issue of urbanization, or what's your take on it?
Yeah, frankly, it's a very wide issue and complex issue as such, but I would go with a very famous preventive and curative strategy about it. When we are dealing complex issues, we have to adopt to the preventive and curative strategies. One is curative strategy that is there to cure a particular thing instantly or in a short term, or really cure that particular problem. So the cities like I said, are coming up with city level efforts. They are thinking about their parking problems. They are thinking about their street problems, street designing problems. Also, they are thinking about their revenue collection problems. So these are certain curative policies, but the preventive strategy is something that, sorry. So the preventive strategy is more of a long-term strategy, which again comes to the very fact that you mentioned about the setting up new towns or setting up new developments. But frankly, again, we go into the binary of brownfield and greenfield in India, where we, I think, have a very less scope for greenfield development, and greenfield development out of context has been debatable. For example, the gift city is whether it is a success or not is a big debate. or in Maharashtra, we have Lavasa, which is a greenfield development. So setting up new cities or new towns is a debatable issue. And I think it inclines towards the negative fact. So in fact, it would be better to apply preventive and curative strategies in the given set and approach the particular issue where it is than setting up new is what I think.
Understood, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Yogesh, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, sir. This is Yogesh, and your presentation was good. Sir, I had a question. You were explaining about the role of the IAS officer and in the planning bodies. I also had a question in Maharashtra. Most of the people who make decisions are like in ATP also is a civil engineer with a background who do not have the planning knowledge. And I think this is the issue all across the nation. So how you see towards that? There was a report you talked about of TTF. It also said that there should be a planning background this further for filling the post of urban planning related job profiles in government. But now, how you see that?
Yeah, I would say that the question was hit on the head of the nail, frankly, hammer. Uh, it's a question that is really very dear to my heart because I've been involved in the activism for that as well. But really, I would say we would be able to build urban resilient communities if urban planners are allowed to do planning, frankly. To address your question, there are certain policy things that are in pipeline. I am optimistic about them. That's all I could do. But there is a talk of the National Council for Town Planners or the Town Planners Bill that is very much in discussion since the last year's budget. The problem with urban planning community is for the beloved architectural community, they have a statutory council for architects. And if an interior designer claims that he or she is an architect, then there are legal proceedings that could be taken. Such is not the case with urban planners, and which is causing even, say, not to disrespect any profession, but even say, for example, an electrician to plan our cities, frankly, because that has been a case a lot of times. What is worrying is also that many progressive states have also been following this particular trend. For example, back in Odisha government with its one of its GRs allowed all the civil engineers to function as their municipal engineers, as their planners and even architects. So these are some professional issues which could be sorted if a professional body like COA is in place for planners. And although I advocate one important thing that civil engineers, planners, and architects have to work in synergy all the time because the ultimate goal is community welfare. But if planners do planning, architects do architecture, and civil engineers do civil engineering, then the synergy could be in place rather than crisscross thing. And the first part of your question, I think, is the largest debate for probably in India because bureaucracy is bureaucracy. Can do BA in fine arts with a specialization in painting, just give a UPSC and then become IS officer. You are serving your entire career for a Jila Panchayat and suddenly you get into ministries and one day you are serving in steel ministry and other day you get transferred to fisheries or culture. So no common connection. And for example, when I was giving when I was a student back in graduation, we had to do a presentation in PMRDA, and Honorable Commissioner PMRDA, Shri IAS officer, sir, he he just came from dairies, dairy department of Maharashtra, and I had to explain him why footpaths are important and how building flyovers cannot be the only solution. Then it is what it is. But I think things are changing. Technocracy is also being involved in the bureaucratic setup. I happen to be its smallest example. I could serve in the parliament because the government allowed the technocratic roles to be taken up. Yeah, it's a very hot topic to discuss.
Sir, one more thing I want to ask. Sir, what is the basic criteria to calculate the urbanization? And in India, what are the parameters to calculate the urbanization rate in terms of population, in
Yes.
terms of the agriculture to another land use change? What are the basic parameters? Yeah, what are the key factors where we can calculate the urbanization rate
Yes.
of particular city, and what are the key parameters to calculate the urbanization rate of India?
Yeah. So this is the way it sounds. It's a very broad question and also very specific to the subject question. That there are certain factors that, of course, can be taken into account to define the rate of urbanization or even what is really urbanization. But before approaching your question, I would like to hint out towards the definitions that are in place because the definitions play important role in calculations. For example, the way urban area is defined in Indian Constitution, is it really relevant today? 5,000 people, that's it. So definition is like that. Or the worst part is also about rural areas. XYZ amount of male population involved in agricultural activities. I was very happy to listen to Professor Dr. Munot in the beginning of the lecture that they have tried to, they always tend to invite more and more, diverse people in discussion. So if we are doing such a paradigm shift in our thinking, then really our definitions also have to change, is what I think. But so these definitions play an important role when we calculate certain things like urbanization. But in a modern day, I would say urbanization rate could be calculated in terms of, first, of course, the workforce participation of both male, female, and other genders that are there. Then, so the second thing could be, of course, in the terms of economic growth, that is the per capita GDP. There's no scope for calculating GDP at a city level, but there are other economic indicators that could come into the granularity of data. So economic growth is one of the important things for urbanization rate. Not just population is there, but not just population. Population, its growth of population and the rate of that growth. The area of jurisdiction also comes into play, the area that is there. And then there are other things like built spaces, unbuilt spaces, other infrastructure coming into play, like probably airport, metro. So these are some modern indicators. But calculating urbanization rate is frankly a very technical thing, we all know. There are tools in research like cellular automata or Markov chains who really try to simulate using GIS the rate of urbanization or the effect of urbanization on, ULUC, what we call land use and land cover, LULC, sorry, land use land cover that is there. So these cellular automata or Markov chains or other GIS enabled tools can technically conclude about the rate of urbanization by simulating certain scenarios. Yeah.
Actually, sir, जैसे India has the urbanization rate of 1.34% right now.
Yeah.
So how it is being calculated?
Sir, that's what I said. I told you about the first thing. The economic growth is per capita GDP is, of course, one of the factors. Population is one of the factors. Then the growth of population is one of the factors. And the area of jurisdiction is a certain factor in it. And like I said, workforce participation as well
Done, sir.
in tertiary, secondary economic activities.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I wanted to ask one question.
Yeah.
Sir, as you said about the FSI that is being adopted presently in the urban areas, especially in the areas where the development, the administration is trying to develop the area quickly, like Greater Noida, and the upcoming areas. So they are adopting FARs like 3.5. So what would be your comment on it, sir? Because is it the right FSI 3.5 that is being adopted right now, and the right kind of measure that is being taken for high density development, or should some other path be taken on this?
Yeah. Ma'am, it's a very valid question, I would say, and very intriguing as well. But for a first, like, zeroth thought that comes to my mind when I try to answer your question is that we are in fact using very less FSI. If you go around the metropolises in world, for example, Tokyo, the FSIs will shake our concepts basically. Like they're more than 10, 15 they go, and the high rise density, and of course it is also their need. But frankly, to decode that, it is also about mindset of the house owners in India. If you go, like for example, Greater Noida was never a like city. It is a developed city, specifically developed. So the most of the times the mindset of people is to hold their own land, or if they want to have a house, they would like to have an individual house than a, say, flat apartment, or maybe G+2, G+3, but own house. That's one of the social symbols, of course, yeah, in most of the Indian cities. So the debate around the FSI becomes a very difficult to answer given the subjectivity of the matter. But I believe we are already undermining the potential of FSI. And it really depends on the development authorities as well. Most of the times, it depends on the development authority. If they want to increase their revenues, they play with FSI because FSI is one of the biggest tools for them. But to answer your question, whether it is a right approach or not, I think a mixed approach could be more appropriate, where there are things like which is already there, floating FSI or TDR, transfer of development rights. So these tools, if we enable in almost all the cities, I don't think it's there in every city in India. Um it depends really. Mumbai is a big market for TDR, the developers and all. It's nothing short of smuggling the market of TDR, frankly. But the play of TDRs, floating FSI, and then increasing in certain pockets of the city is also important. And that also hints towards the European way. They always have a central business district where the FSI would be so high because it's a workplace. But the land use zoning is not suitable uh, for Indian context, because we are more into mixed use, upar makan, niche dukan wala approach. So to enable mixed use development, I think would be the best approach.
Thank you. Yes, Miss Devi.
Yeah. Sorry, I think the session was about to end. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is related to the FSI issue that you were just, narrating about. So recently I came across a situation where in Bangalore, so the additional FSI is provided to a transport corridor, the properties adjacent to the metro corridor.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
The FSI provided was 3.2. But then, given the area of the plot or whatever, given no relaxation on setbacks, it's not possible for you to achieve the FSI itself. Definitely do whatever you do. It's not possible for you to achieve that kind of an FSI. So it's like, I don't know, it's just an eyewash. You're providing FSI, but at the end of the day, you're not able to achieve it. But then how do you convince your client, or, how do you,
It's a
because the
big problem,
people who are,
I guess.
it's a big problem, because I just spoke to the authorities also.
Mhm.
And then there is, no relaxation in terms of setbacks. So how is
Yeah.
it even possible for us to achieve that FSI if it's like, you have something in hand, but you cannot use it?
Frankly, the best thing to do is approaching the authorities, because
Yes, I
I
did.
hope they are cooperative in the
No,
in
no, no. The
such
answer
times
that
or
I
not.
got was the FSI, the additional FSI that you have got is just on papers, not yet, that was the, I mean, that was their excuse.
Okay. I think,
So
yeah, I'll be
what is
very
the best
honest with this.
possible solution? Is there anything that I can do about it?
I'm very, to be very honest with you, I really can't think of an instant solution about this, but that negotiating that with authorities.
Yeah.
But if they are again saying that is just on paper, then it becomes a bigger issue, which
Yes,
only I think the Chief Minister of Karnataka can solve,
definitely,
because
definitely.
he might have the chairman of the authority must be the Chief Minister, or
And I just happened to speak to one of the higher
no,
up.
but the ultimate authority in the ultimate
Yes, yes, yes. It has to be
the
him.
chief minister, right? Yeah, like other authorities as
Uh,
well. So
Correct.
I think, yeah, the negotiation is a very important thing in that matter. But I'll be very honest to point out to one particular thing about this transit oriented development
Yes,
is that a lot of metro rail corporations are being notified as planning authorities.
yes, yes.
And I pointed out at one aspect in challenges, that is the multiplicity of planning bodies. So if you take any city, you will have at least 10 to 15, it's an Indian way.
Yeah.
For every topic, you will have 10, 15 experts. For
Authorities.
budget, so many economists.
Yeah.
For cricket, so many Ravi Shastris and coaches. For every issue, we have a lot of experts. Everyone is an expert in everything. So multiplicity of bodies is also towards that. That's the problem. I think one nodal agency that will take shots about FSI, building regulations, frameworks is needed, and then everyone can play their own role, be it
Correct.
metro, be it bus, Unified Transport Authority, or even the Housing and Slum Improvement Board. I'll just give you a false equivalence, sort of, about this. This was becoming a very big problem at a national scale.
Yeah.
Every department has its own land.
Mm.
Every department has its own vision. For example, railways has highest amount of land. They have their bridges coming up, railway routes coming up, and then there is Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry also, who wants to do something. Then there is Defense Ministry also, who has lands about their own land. Then they want to develop their own facilities. Then there are any ministry, chemicals and fertilizers, they have their own PSUs and they have their own land and they have their plans to develop that particular land. So this was becoming a very big issue at the central level. And then a brilliant policy has been conceived, that is PM Gati Shakti Yojana. I forgot to mention about that when a question was asked about what policies are being shaped up. PM Gati Shakti is a game changer in such a context. It's a GIS enabled platform, basically. It's a
Okay.
portal, GIS enabled portal, where every ministry has to map its resources,
Mhm.
land, infra,
Okay.
plan, everything. So
Okay.
that it's a very simple thing, basically, but very crucial. So
Very
I
effective.
think such a dialogue between authorities would help about even FSI solutions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, participants. I hope there are no other questions. Are there any more participants who want to ask right now? We are short of time as well, but we can we can accept one question.
As a beginner in urban planning, sir, I have went through the various master plans of other states than Maharashtra. As a resident of Maharashtra, So I grew up in Pune. So there are the master plans for bigger cities, but I am from a small city in Nagpur region. So, so there is a lack. Yeah, is there work going on by the ministry, or is it still in the planning? What do you say?
About what? Sorry.
So about the preparing master plans of the smaller cities.
It's yeah. Frankly, it is. In this case, the central government can only issue guidelines because planning is a state subject. So the state governments have to be serious about planning. And because you were very specific about geography and location, Maharashtra has experienced changes in government recently.
Yeah.
So a lot of policies and things are changing, or maybe changing, and some stopped, some started. So we can't answer the question. Yeah.
No, sir. I just
Yeah.
wanted to know that is the work is going on, preparation of master plans.
Is going on.
Yeah. No, is going on or not? I just wanted to.
I think it has to. Yeah, because see, the Maharashtra Regional and Town Planning Act is very clear. You have to have a development plan. It's mandatory for every ULB. Every 20 years. It's a legal document, and it's a mandatory document. So one day or the other, your urban local body or any municipal council has to prepare a plan. It's mandated by the court. If there's no plan, the court can take a suo motu cognizance and can literally sue the commissioner of the municipal council or municipal corporation, because it's a mandatory document by MR and TP Act. So it has to be there. When is the biggest question?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It was really inspiring and knowledgeful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all the participants. I would like to extend our special gratitude to Piyush sir and the all the information that sir has shared, that is very valuable. And sir, your lecture presents that how much detailed knowledge you have about the administration and all the policies and the development that is going on in the country. And this lecture is accurately the first lecture what we have got for this entire 5-day session, because your lecture has given the momentum about the issues that urban development is facing in the country, and how we are going to think about resilience with all that the gaps that are present, and with all the challenges that we are going to face and that we are facing. So all that areas, sir, you have given the picture, you have highlighted all the areas and the data and the details which you have given that are mind-boggling. The 38 million units of gap, shortfall of the affordable housing units, and the percentage of urban settlements that do not have master plan yet. So how much of work is pending, and how we are going to go forward with the urban resilience thing, and how much important it is to think of the urban resilience. So thanks a lot, Shri Piyush Girgaonkar sir, and we are very much enlightened with your lecture, and thank you all the participants. And now I would
I'll just take a moment to
yes.
conclude. Thank you for having me here, and for giving me this platform. And I must say, I have a very senior colleagues who will be giving for further expert lectures. So thank you for having me, and I wish you all the best. And
Thank you, Piyush,
I would,
for being
yeah,
with us, and
yeah,
we would like to be associated with you
yeah.
more in future.
Thank
Definitely
you.
will
Yes,
remain in contact.
yes,
And
and
I
yeah.
would like to welcome, we have Mr. Lalit sir from
Yes, I was
Auroville
going to say
with
that
us.
only. It's good to
Yeah.
see you, sir, after a long time virtually.
Hello, sir. Hello, Lalit
Hello,
sir.
hello,
Finally,
everybody.
Yes, yeah,
we have collaborated for an event, and it's
yes,
so good to
Nice.
have you, sir.
No, most welcome.
yes,
Good,
yes,
good
yes,
that Piyush, you are in Portugal, no? You are in
yes,
Portugal.
yes, yes, yes,
How is it?
yes.
All good?
Not as beautiful as Auroville, I would say.
Maybe more.
Yes,
But
Yeah,
But
no,
in
no,
India,
no.
it's as cold as in I guess in Portugal.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
freezing cold.
yes, yes, yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Piyush. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sonam, I think we can continue.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
How is it?
Yes, yes.
I would hand forward to Priyank sir. He will be addressing.
People are done with the lunch break and all. Everything is sorted out.
Sir, lunch break is after the training program.
Oh wow.
Priyank sir, please.
Welcome back for the session to day one. I am very grateful to welcome our expert speaker, Architect Lalit Kishor Bhati, sir, for the session City is a Living Curriculum, an experiential learning case study of Auroville. Lalit Kishor Bhati, sir, is an architect urban planner based in Auroville. For the last 20 years, he is an executive and co-founder of Studio Path Architect and Planners, along with architect Saliza. Auroville first-hand living and working experience have developed insight on city is a living curriculum. Had how much a vision and movement could be linking this to transformative and experiential learning and making our cities more engaging and empowering. Brief of work done by Lalit Kishor Bhati, sir. He has worked on Auroville master plan. He is involved in 5 days TISS Mumbai Urban Feature 2022 online workshop in April. He also involved in 2-week online program on engaging cities in July 2020, which consists of 90 participants. He also engaged in 4-week seminar series on city and region in September 2021. He organized short-term Auroville educational visit facilitation of some 25,000 students of architecture in last 20 years from India and abroad. Connected with 5 international planning studio in Auroville for postgraduate planning students from Queen's University, Canada in between 2012 and 18, and co-taught planning of sustainable settlement along with Professor Sankar of IIT Roorkee. He also published paper on enabling transformative urban development for integral sustainability, a case for tapping the potential of Sir Aurobindo's philosophy in planning practice and theory. Now let's all listen to sir. Sir, after you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you very much. You can hear me, Saul? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. And possible to see the invisible faces? How is it? People can switch on their cameras, or generally what is the practice? Would be nice if I can see Akshay, Purnima, Sauravi, Vidikul, Rakesh, G. Kalaivani, Arti, Aditya. We have how many? 26 participants and 3 of you. So maybe some 23 participants, I guess. You know, something. 4 of us are there, no?
Yes, yes.
Something like 23. Nice. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Some of you have been to Auroville or are familiar somehow.
No, sir, not yet.
I have been to Auroville.
I know. Many groups are coming right now. You see, okay, there is sunlight on my head here, and sometimes we have clouds. We are in the middle of that kind of season. So I can start. Shall I share the screen?
Yes, sir.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So I'll be talking about the city is a living curriculum. This is the topic which has been taken by me, which goes along with the theme of the event. theme of the FDP. What I'm trying to put forward is that we are passing through a special timing, which is driven by, let us say, climate change. Climate change is a larger, broad umbrella term. Whether we call SDG, sustainability, other element, they are part and parcel of this. Climate change is a bigger, and they both are connected. The issues and solutions are connected. So how do we find the connected thing? And in overall, I'm just on the outset, the point which I'm trying to drive and make is that in our architectural education, both faculty members and students need to be made early on aware, early on. And there has to be a way, creative way, interesting way, fun way. And then there is a possibility of that when they graduate after 5 years, they are much better prepared. They are on the side of some solution providers and not only the part of problem. So, and how this has been done in Auroville in one way, and how it can be learned from something like Auroville and many other places. This is the larger dimension and the focus of my talk today. How will be the future campus of the future city engagement if we see that way? The future cities will be engaged to transform. The point I'm saying is, if we see our architectural education today, it is quite very campus oriented. The meaningful, substantial engagement with the city is not much there. We use city for some studies, case studies, but we are not going back to those cities. We are not sharing our work with either municipal authorities and the people. And so in the times to come, the future of education and the type of campuses, what is happening is quite, I think it will get obsolete. It's a matter of time. The future campuses, whole city, this is what I'm saying. Cities are living curriculum if we can connect to that dimension. This is the same thing. If you pay attention to, and I would like you to pay attention to the India's urbanization drive. Piyush has also mentioned, he covered in a very particular way the administrative part of this. But what is inevitable, India is on a major urbanization drive. India needs more and more people, skilled manpower, those who can deal with city urbanization. Architecture is a part of that in that sense. The people with certain capacity of integration of that type. And you heard from Piyush how the situation is rather also grim. A huge manpower, creativity, engagement is required. Now, if we are not able to provide some of those qualities, orientation and experience or exposure early on, irrespective of whether you are studying architecture or anything else, then I think this kind of students will come out from our architectural courses. They will lack the holistic preparedness to engage with the city. You may practice anything which you like. You may practice interior design, of course, no doubt about this. You can practice any line. But what India as a country is looking, if you just see the amount of money which is being spent or earmarked for water management, solid waste management, mobilities, all of these and many other areas. If you look at the government scheme, it is very clearly cities have to be leading, because cities are the living platform. We associate with city, our memory, references, facilities, sense of belonging, many things come from the city. So cities have to be playing also much more better role. But how do we make them better, more safe, integrative, more smart is one of the term people are using. So my narrative, my point is around that. And all the colleges are in the cities. If you see, this is kind of one of the proposal which I have been making is suggesting, if each campus nowadays, any big city, if I look at Chennai, which is close by, Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, NCR, each of these big city has 20 to 30 architecture colleges. Generally, as far as I know, there is a very poor collaboration, engagement among each other. They are not really relating. That is another sad thing. But imagine if each college takes 5 kilometer radius as their core engagement zone. We are anyway doing case studies. Whether we do the city case study, urban design case study, landscape, public amenities, many case studies we do. But if we take 5 kilometer as a radius, of core engagement zone. So whatever projects are happening of public type, we engage with local municipal bodies, authorities. You are anyway practicing or giving them exposure of architecture skill. You are sending them anyway. But this become here, it becomes the intent becomes very clear. We are focusing and we are becoming a responsible player in the city development, as against only keep on fulfilling dry curriculum requirement, learning them how to make AutoCAD drawings and a few other things. That is a one part. What I'm saying is here colleges take a bit more active and proactive role. So whatever you do, same thing is done with a bit more consciousness and awareness, and developing a context for this in a bit more. So how will you, like for example, how is your architecture curriculum today responding to what are they responding to? So sustainable development goal is one thing. This is a UNESCO. You can see UNESCO education for. So UNESCO charter talks about the pillars: learning to know, learning to be, learning to live together, learning to do, and learning to transform oneself and society. So these are also the pillars or the guidelines which UNESCO share. And if we see, these are also the kind of qualities and dimension we need in our youth. That is the point. Now, if these are being taken care while teaching them architecture, because when they are in college, they are passing through the prime of their learning stage. They are open, they are willing. So if the energies are channelized well towards these qualities, and if it is developed well as a systematic program, so our youth which are coming out of college, they are more part of the solution, and they will easily help or become a resourceful or even expert down the line in any either sustainability, city, better living conditions and environment. Otherwise, if these qualities are not developed well, what we are producing perhaps is more and more isolated architecture practices. People keep on doing only interior projects, nothing against them, but how we will develop the capacity to create better collective living spaces, which is a real life challenge. I'm more focusing on that element in this session. You might have studied or come across about NEP. What is the vision of NEP and how actually NEP opens the door of inter or multidisciplinary learning. There are many things, and I would suggest if there was already a session, I think some architects, there was a session some days back where people have talked about this. So if you see fundamentally how NEP is linked and how it can be taken in architecture also needs to be responding to this is they're talking about life skills, communication, cooperation, synergy in curriculum across all level of education, respect diversity and respect the local context, talking about ethical and human and constitutional value. This is one of the key I like personally, fostering the unique capability of each student, multidisciplinarity and a holistic education across the sciences, flexibility to promote each student's development in both academic and non-academic sphere, creative and critical thinking. If we apply this kind of framework, you will see how it is important to make some changes and modifications in our program. How do we apply this to architecture? This is again something more on NEP if we see. So this is fostering, if we see ultimately the knowledge is a deep-seated treasure, and education helps it in manifestation as a perfection which is already within an individual. So this is more and more ultimately leading for deeper and more experiential learning. And the way most of the colleges are applying or trying to teach architectural awareness, knowledge, skill, it is quite what I would call dry and very streamlined in a dry way. It is so that there has to be a total major gear shifting, and towards that is this session. Another, I'm linking one more thing. I'm linking it more on purpose with the urban, because after graduation and all, people will be looking for a job market, and they would be practicing, let us say, by and large in cities, urban areas. And there also people need certain capacities. So if we can link it, and India does not have great, capacity of in terms of planners which are being produced both in number and quality also. So if you see, there is a document which has come from Niti Aayog. This is a more than 100-page document which talks about reform in urban planning capacity in India. This is a report you can just Google and check and download and read. This is huge. The first time this kind of a report has come from Niti Aayog level, and there's a major thrust how the planning capacity has to be increased. So cities are the playground. This was this was a case I had made for a Puducherry. There was a session here, how the city region could create a new narrative. You know, this is just an example of capacity building, learning from best practices. Detailed studies could be done, projectize the plan, and tapping into the scheme. Government is talking about Atmanirbhar. This is, I think, a fundamentally important concept. Like every city, area, country needs to be self-reliant. How would you become self-reliant if we are not getting connected and engaged with that local context? This is, I'm giving you a very simple reference of a case study of a learning integration. That if you, I don't know how many of you have in-depth studied SDGs and climate change issues, which I think are very important. There are issues with the water, there are issues with the food. What I'm trying to put forward here is how some of these things can be creatively engaged even within our architectural case studies. For example, if you study a topic of food, when we touch a topic of food, we can touch about soil, market, mobility, water, farmers. So whenever we are doing a rural program, studies, it could be a holistic design studio, which could engage architecture, planning, design, sociology, cultural stories, craft melas, apps. People can create apps, rural tourism, food festival. And around this, one can also find a cluster of institutions, NGOs, workshops, summer, winter schools. Many things can happen. So a city and surrounding areas can develop. And this could be within 15 to 25-kilometer radius of an urban center. So colleges can take this. And if they know how to collaborate with each other, a city will become very rich, and these institutions will be their knowledge hub. Cities will become rich that way. Same. Another template, if we applied on the food, there is an element of celebration, food waste, composting, gardening, art, element of local. So new narratives can be created, and the younger generation is taking interest in entering into these kind of things. I have also not seen, apart from very few colleges, I have hardly seen if any college in architecture is showcasing their work which is being done in the design studio openly, highlighting, offering it to the city, citizen, authorities. So all of that, which are very simple, easily doable work. And I think we must approach it. So these are the new dimensions and very easily doable. I'll be happy to know from participants later if some of the colleges are doing these things. They are doing open exhibition. You know, we go out, we do documentation of an area, we make presentations, we get the grading, we tear apart the sheet and throw. It would be nice if we complete the cycle, whatever presentation we have made or the offering, we show it to the people for whom, for which area it has been done. We organize a residents meeting, and also we try to invite the municipal authority or development authority people. Okay, look, this college or this architecture program has a certain capacity. They are developing and they have skills to put forward solutions for that area in a holistic and better designed way. So there will be a new cultural opening. There would be a new possibility. It will take some time to develop, but at least cities will start looking at colleges as their extended arm, technical helper, or whatever. Then the work will happen in the studios, which students will learn. Slowly they will see a connection. Whatever work they are doing, it is getting used in the city. It is getting in improving the conditions of living of the people. So that is the narrative, connected with the flow. Otherwise, it's a very dry segregation, which is not fun. NIUA, you might have seen, some of you, and I would strongly recommend you just check out their website. They are doing a huge amount of work and many different projects and initiatives they have. It is good. If somebody has interest, they should just check it out. There are many, even campuses nowadays are taking a lead, those who are working on SDGs. I would also like to know from the participant later if their colleges, universities are having a sustainability campus plan or SDGs plan or framework within their campus. And there are some of the not Auroville, Indian universities or colleges which are working on SDGs, and they have been figured out in the ranking of the colleges which are doing well. There is a one Jindal, OP Jindal University, which was first university, this is what they claim, to release the UN's SDG report. So slowly these things are also picking up. More and more colleges, or at least progressive institute, will be coming forward to work on the larger sustainability issues or SDG plans. So irrespective of then what you are teaching, it is not only limited to any one particular type. So in that case, architecture has a leading role possibility. This is my point. We should take it up in that way. And there are lessons for Indian Higher Education Institute in SDG ranking. And this is the Operation Observer Research Foundation's article. Now I'm shifting now after this background building, and I hope it was clear so far. If anybody has any quick question, this is the kind of a context building so far. What I wanted to build a context, if the larger dimension or the direction is clear, that why we should be also focusing on developing certain city engagement skill, experiences, awareness early on in our architecture students. And for that, faculty have to be more inclined or prepared well. And this can be very well integrated within the course curriculum, design studios. It's a very creative integration, which I see it as a fun, and this will open up totally new dimension. So is it so far clear, more or less? I don't see any people.
Yes,
I see
sir.
only Sonam's face. Sonam, shall we go ahead?
Yes, sir, it's very clear and quite enriching, because we as faculty, we have got quite good inputs from you, how we can engage the local area.
Yeah, so I'll just now, then in that case, I'm just shifting to the next part, the Auroville case study, which is from where I take my references, because I have been living and working here for the last 25 years, and I find it quite a good privilege. So Auroville is based on the spiritual dimension and vision of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And this is on the right, what you see is Auroville Charter. 4-point, like every university has some kind of a vision mission. Our cities don't have. So here it is like Auroville belongs to humanity as a whole. It's a place for unending education and progress, a bridge between past and the future, and material and spiritual researches for a living embodiment of actual human unity. Fine. So it's only 50-year young, hardly 52-year rather. And this was the beginning of Auroville. You can imagine the people came, even if the dimension was human unity, very ideal utopian type of possibility. But this was a living reality, harsh reality, hard red soil, no vegetation, nothing, no budget equipment, only people came, and this was the condition. So people worked day and night, hard work, and they converted. The first work was to make the land livable. So initial work was ecological and environmental. So foundations were laid for the preparation of the land. People worked day and night in these conditions along with local population. And in the first 20 years, something like this has emerged. Millions of trees were planted. People learned how to do proper plantation, ecological work, bunding, check dams. And this has changed the microclimate. Forest has come. Many, many more stories around the ecological work. And these are some of the images. So the aim of Auroville is human unity. This you can see. And yeah, sorry. This is the proposed population is 50,000. Presently, we are something like 3,500 people from close to 55, 60 countries. And what you see here is the proposed land use, broad land use plan. In the center where 1, 2, 3, 4 is written, it's a city area, urban area, proposed urban area. surrounded by another circular belt, which is called the Green Belt of Auroville, and which has also 6 native villages. So this is the proposed plan for Auroville, and there is a lot of work and development will keep on happening for the next many years, because our population is to increase quite a lot. This is the 3D visualization of the urban form, which is also known as the galaxy plan. And this is the way how people have been engaging and learning. Also the mapping. So mapping is a very important tool, which is in a way taught also to all the people in architecture. Here, importance is I am showing this Auroville case study from how Auroville population community, in order to learn, in order to engage with the self-surrounding environment, which kind of work they have been doing. So Auroville is working also in a large bioregion. So it's like, imagine if you have a college, there is a 10-kilometer radius area, 5-kilometer radius, you engage with them, you do the proper documentation, being aware of all the details layers. Auroville has been doing many tank rehabilitation, organic farming, youth, village activities, many things. And you have to keep in mind, Auroville's population to engage with all these activities very small, few hundred people. So 3,500 means almost only 2,000 adult, the rest are children. And out of 2,000, only few people are more actively engaged and taking part in many activities. Some are not so much active for so many activities. They are engaged in other activities. This is how there are many farms, organic farms, food. So this is a session being conducted. These are the students from IIT Roorkee. Those who came, those who wanted to learn how, we eat 3 times a day, but our relationship with the food is not very healthily developed. Like, it cannot be that we pay the money for the food and food comes on our table. To know the whole ecosystem, soil, you have seen the movement Sadhguru also started, save soil. Soil is a fundamental layer. So how do we appreciate, how do we bring this kind of knowledge, know-how, understanding, sensitivity early on? It does not matter whether you study architecture, economics, and statistics. Soil is fundamental layer for our life. So integrating this kind of thing creatively in engagement, whether we do a cultural study, the food types of India, because culture in a way comes from soil. So developing that is, I think, very key for developing proper holistic understanding. So in Auroville, this is happening. This is a man-made forest, just a glimpse of that. And these are the water management practices. On the right is there is a canyon which goes to the sea, which has been bundled. On the left is almost all development has treatment plants. The treatment of wastewater is done through these. So almost all development has, like even in India, in many of the cities, I don't know how many of your college campuses have a proper treatment plant. So as simple as that. See, when a student's a young mind, boys and girls are in a college, like a parent trying to teach their children, you should speak the truth. How will they learn? Only if the parents are living a kind of a truthful life, not just by saying. So all the campuses should be walking the talk. They should be making their campus as an experimental campus. Let there be mistakes, let there be problems, let there not be perfection. But the intent should be there that we will want to improve our campus, because when a student is spending 4 or 5 years in a campus, I think highest amount of learning is happening from the surroundings. So some of these practices you should consider starting in your campus. Renewable energy applications. So Auroville has been great in terms of experiment. Auroville is an experimental ground. You have to see it as a living lab. This is a place for, it's a lab experiment. So this is a solar bowl, 15-meter diameter, which generates steam for cooking food for 1,000 people per day. On the left bottom, there are some windmills which are donated to Auroville, and they offset all of energy requirement of Auroville. So Auroville is practically net zero. Educational learning system is one of the most wonderful here, and that is reflected in this school design. What you see, the central image, it is from Nandanam school, which is also award-winning school. So concept of free progress, many colleges group and students keep coming to visit these kind of things. An integral education of mother talks about 5-fold: physical, mental, vital, spiritual, and psychic layers of development. And these are the expressions out of that kind of larger vision dimension. These are the expressions which have come in the architecture over a period of time. On the left hand, there was an earlier school. On the right hand bottom, this is a human escape, a youth housing, which is earth core concrete and the walls. This is last school, one of the high school of Auroville, and which is very art centric, which has a art center. So here, like the students almost design their own course curriculum. This school does not give any degree and certificate. So importance is given for the joy of learning. So the people, those who will come. So creating this possibility of joy of learning also in architecture in some way, I think we need to shift. We need to also make effort to go towards that. So alternative construction technologies. This is earth construction technologies. There's a Auroville Earth Institute. So all this freedom and the possibility, people have come up with different types of experiment. You need to see it that way. So same thing can be done at your end, your campus. If it is open, they allow experimentation, try it out. That would be really nice. And Auroville has got many recognitions. So whatever I'm saying, telling you, many of these things are available openly on Auroville main website in a well-organized way. You can read out most of the information there. Feel free. And people coming from different nationality, the art scene is very high. People are very talented, and many art events keep happening. This is the way community comes together. Imagine when and how do we come together as a collective, as a community, in a college, in a campus, as a city. Very few things can happen, very few things. So we need to create possibility where the different communities, you know, there could be a community of taking care of green spaces in a city. It's a group. So in that group, multiple type of people can come to facilitate. As architecture college, you can provide design, idea, drawings. Other people, NGOs can join. So to be a part of, to engage with something like that, where the change is happening, because I think it is important at a young age to give our youth a hope and kind of a confidence that whatever you do, it can lead to some change making. Not that you keep on making drawings and ultimately they have to be thrown and somebody else will do something else. So creating that narrative that whatever work you do and how you do it, it has a certain impact possibility, which I think is a very positive message to give to our youth. And this is the way community participation process. So a lot of effort is put into bringing community together, awareness. So what I'm saying is everywhere effort is needed, effort is to be done. This was one of the projects which I initiated when I was part of the 11-year planning group, integral sustainability platform. So you can read all the sectors, food, mobility, waste, all this, it has literally everything which you see in your life in a city. And there were groups of each sector, 7 to 10 people, and they met for almost 1 year, once in 2 weeks. And they came up with a very interesting, very insightful report, ideas, issues, solutions in individual area and also crisscross, how they relate with each other. If people are interested, I'll be happy to share all these links to Madhuri or Sunam. And then you can pass it on to the participants.
Sure, sir. We'll be very grateful.
And this is, for example, I mentioned, how do you connect with the city and citizens? So this was a planning exhibition, which I had designed along with Mr. Doshi's office and SEPT. Otherwise, what is the relationship? How will the citizens know what was the city plan? So these were the all city, how city plan evolved. These are 1 meter by 2 meter. I have the soft copy of this exhibition also. I will happy to share. But the main purpose is, other than showing you the architecture drawings, that is not the main point. Main point is the intent for which this exhibition was done. So that the community of Auroville, the new residents will come, they have a background awareness of the context, what was proposed, how things are evolving, what has changed, what are the issues. And we have been taught these things in architecture planning schools. So I see the future of architecture schools as a resource center for the city, not only just on keeping teaching dry architecture curriculum in a very narrow way within a closed campus. That is an obsolete concept. It will not work. The times for that has gone. So things have to be reinvented in a very very rather fun way, and it is very much possible. It is rather easy if people are open to do that. The communities of there's a organic farming, many people are engaged in that. Auroville has a handicraft based production and economy. So the people, so the point I'm trying to make via this presentation of Auroville is it's a kind of an open university. It's an open learning system. You can be part of anything, whatever you want to learn. If you are clear, what would you learn? So everybody is open to receive, everybody is offering and sharing. And I keep receiving many groups, those who keep coming for visits and workshops. This is from the waste newspaper. Products are being made. Architecture, these are the famous buildings of early 1970s, the house of chief architect. This is Savitri Bhavan, institutional building in international zone. Visitor center. Imagine no other city in India has visitor center which can receive people, visitors. As far as I think, or I know, or only Auroville has, where people are received properly. They can see exhibitions, videos, there is shopping, there is a dining, there are toilet facilities, and then they walk and see Matre Mandir. It's a well-organized affair, is my point. All Indian cities will have to, I think, go for visitor centers in the coming time. These are different construction technologies, compressor blocks, terracotta, with the waste material, there's the one housing. And one of the important thing is early on, I'm laying a stress and emphasis on early on behavioral habits. So we already have a cycle track. So they make it easy for people. My son, he's 10-year-old. He has been going for last 2-3 years to school totally on cycle. He goes in the 8 in the morning, comes back at 5, even after sports, all safe, fine. So there is a cultural heli. So my point here is also imagine you take up your mobility plan of your campus and you do the cycle mapping or do cycle audit. So somewhere you need to start, even if you start noting down the issues, from there solutions will come. You want to make your campus cyclable, connected. You would like, you put a target, 10% of our population of the students should be able to come on cycle in next 2 years. So if you make a goal like this, then you will start auditing the survey, traffic movement, pedestrian width, hawkers, tree shading, many things will come. And I think this is what we need to engage. Otherwise, only learning how to make drawing is a very, it will get obsolete is my point. It's a rather, then it will be very limiting skill. How will you become a change maker? How will you play a role in manifesting a change, which we need? We have our own intranet, and like your colleges must be having. So how everything is shared openly, and Auroville publishes its news and notes, very detailed, open account of different things is openly shared. You can even download. This is even, we have a radio, even meeting minutes, presentations which are happening, they are audio recorded and you can listen. So even if there are question, comment, hard, soft, criticism, it is openly available. This just shows the sign of an open society. Then Auroville is working in the bioregion. There are many water management projects. And in the region, if you work, there's a water management, regional transportation, tourism. All this is, I have a feeling, is easily possible to integrate in one way or another. Somebody needs to keep a vision with this. Even there is a regional planning framework which Auroville is working. So I'm trying to point out that a small city, a small place, less population, getting engaged in a small to larger area of work. This is my point. So if you take your campus as something like that, out of that, you can be a powerhouse, you can be a resource center for the city. And I think that domain, placing your college as a resource center, will give a long life, more creative engagement and sense of purpose. These are some of the maps. I can give the link to this map, this report also, if people are interested. Settlement pattern study around Auroville, it is being done. How it is impacting. This is one of the things which I did 5 international planning studio. These were postgraduate students from Canada. So I got the studies done of the surroundings of Auroville. So a student wanted to come and learn, and I gave them a task which is important for Auroville. So this was done. These are the surrounding activities, the map. For example, you can also map the different activities, skill, practices in the surrounding. So you can easily conceptualize, develop, take as a vision, and as a component of that, if people want to develop their college visions and development, they can develop. And if they need any help, any workshop towards that, I'll be happy to come join and meet and explain or organize it. So these are some of the activities which Auroville is doing in the surrounding region in the field of environment, health and well-being, community development, culture, art, sports, economic development. And these were many programs for students which we have been organizing for many years. And I don't know if anybody's from Chennai, if they are familiar with Chennai and Adyar Park. It was revived by some people and consultants from Auroville. So developing a gift of an open space park in cities, I think, is one of the best gift to give to a city and citizens. So working for that, connecting, using your knowledge and skill for transformation is the main point I'm trying to make. Like Auroville is a learning society. So many groups you can see here, they have been student groups coming. On the left is a Sept Winter School. They had come. This was another Sept Winter School which was hosted. These are the faculty member of a university in Gujarat, and they were on a curriculum design workshop with us. They are visiting waste sorting out center. So very detailed awareness is being given to these people to understand in depth and do the backward understanding how the behavioral change, where all changes have to come, and based on all that, what changes they have to make in curriculum. It was a very in-depth, very beautiful work. These are some of the images of architecture. You can see this is a Nandanam kindergarten. It's an award-winning project also by Shailaja. These are some images from that. How the whole school is an act of play. How it is designed. Matre Mandir. So how different expressions of architecture have come. So the key learning from Auroville is how the alignment of self, society, and environment, but engage to transform. Not only just simply learning in the class, learning or enhancing some knowledge and skills, but engaging to transform. This is what I would say. So all these SDGs in one way or another are being practiced in Auroville much before SDGs came into existence. So Auroville has been a city of living curriculum. These are some of the posters of the online activities I have been engaged in. A transformation I did it with the Dr. Christoph from IIT Chennai. This I did, which was very interesting. 2 weeks of, it was a free, some 90 participants took part 2 years back, engaging cities. And the topics I took was governance, food and waste, water and open space, craft, skill, art and heritage. Most of the participants were architecture, design, planning students only, but I wanted them to touch on these topics, something which is not taught in classes because of curriculum requirement. But I am convinced after learning from Auroville that some of these things, if they are exposed early on, the amount of opening, understanding, clarity which can bring to the students, then they can engage much better and take the decisions of their life. There was a full series by some 14 national, international experts on city and the regions. It was, all this is available online if people want to see the videos. These are, I think we're coming to an end. Some of the images from Auroville, which you may like. Yeah, it's a living lab. Yeah, this is, I think, the last slide. This is it from my side. Yeah, fine. So yeah, this is the presentation part. Would like to hear the questions and hear if something is not clear you want me to articulate. I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
I express my hearty thanks for the enriching lecture, sir. Now I invite all of you for the interaction and question answer session. Kindly raise your hand for your questions.
And also show me your face, yeah.
Yeah, please switch on your camera, everyone.
चेहरे तो दिखाओ अपने.
Right.
Sangvi ma'am.
Because one thing many people have been seeing in FDP, most of the participants are sleeping, they switch off. switch off their cameras and just go around doing all kind of things. I would say I would not believe that.
Purnima
sure.
ma'am, please switch on your camera.
Would be good to see the faces. It is not fun to keep talking to a blank surface. No, I see a black screen otherwise.
I think most of them are on camera now, sir.
Nice, nice.
Aditya Sanyal.
There are questions also.
Yeah. Go ahead. So was it making sense? Something not clear? How would you like to take it up? Clarification questions, anything, feel free. I'm here.
Amla, ma'am, please
Somebody
start
can,
your camera. Ask your question, please.
somebody can
Yeah,
facilitate.
thank you, Sonam. Am I audible?
Yes, who is
Yeah,
speaking?
Yeah, my name is Amala. I'm unfortunately unable to switch my camera on.
Okay.
There's some issues with it.
All right.
So thank you for the presentation. It was quite insightful. However, I have several questions actually.
Go ahead.
So it's not in any particular order of presentation, but just some thoughts that came to my mind. The first thing is I realized that you are envisioning a green belt for the development of the city, and it is also in forms of concentric circles. So what was your reasoning for it? And is it influenced by any other research that you have done? That is one thing. The other is now we have the community center as such and in Auroville. But how do you envision the idea of community changing as Auroville goes? Because if you look at most of the early theoreticians, such as Worth, who actually talks about how as a city keeps growing, the idea of community sort of disintegrates, and you then have several different societies.
Sure.
And then there's also the issue of anonymity. So how do you envision that happening?
Sure.
Or rather that changing? Then the third is the idea of the galaxy. Now, I'm not criticizing the design as such, but it is something that is quite seen and something that is, I feel, an issue with us as planners and designers, where we try to design something from the perspective of a bird flying over.
Sure.
So what do you envision the experience of the urban dweller on ground? So what is that going to be? Regardless of what the form of the city might be.
Okay.
And the fourth thing is, as you said, Auroville is a place for experimentation and growth through experimentation. So I would say that Auroville has the capacity to move towards a more utopian mode of living. Do you think that other cities can also afford to adopt the model?
Sure. Can I suggest one thing, if you
Yes.
are okay? Some of your questions, I mean, I'm happy to answer, and what I feel I can explain.
Sure.
I have no problem in responding to that, but somewhere the kind of intent with which I have approached the session, that how we can consider Auroville as a reference case study.
Okay.
And with that, how some of the knowledge, skill, understanding, inspiration can be taken and applied in your own context, in your whatever you do, teach, however, in the campus, whatever shift. So if we can relate and focus on that, that will be slightly more, I think, substantial and directly meaningful, is just my kind of point or suggestion. And I am otherwise open to answer this question, or maybe my suggestion would be, we can take up these questions towards the end of like somebody who is monitoring the question answer, give me the last few minutes for these things.
Sure. So if you feel that any of them are relevant, you can answer them. Otherwise, I think maybe you can just reply.
I can also have one-to-one. I can also have one-to-one with you.
All right.
I'm fine, because then it is entering into Auroville, and entering into Auroville could be like, you can come here even for 6 months, you know. So those things we can do easily and differently. I have no problem with that.
I think if the organizers are also okay with, I can probably email the questions to them, and maybe they can pass it on to you, and you can respond in your own time.
I have shared I can share here again my email ID and all. It is just that
I will share sir's email ID.
No, I'm just doing it right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm just doing it right now. But I will take up your one question, which was the last question, the relevance of and how this can be scaled up. That I see quite relevant to the topic today. So is it fine? Shall I go?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
How I see is, as I mentioned, Auroville is a living lab. So lab has a particular function and a behavioral element. So how do we learn from somebody else? It is up to them. If the cities, so what is happening, if you look around most of the cities, they are passing through what I would call a kind of a some kind of a disease and a collapse stage. Living in cities, if somebody can say our cities are very healthy, nice, nurturing, better, joyful, I'll be happy to hear those kind of qualities, which city is doing that. The Delhi's air quality makes national news, right?
Yeah.
So if you look into all those things, living in a city is getting kind of symbolizing also with a certain amount of stressful living. It's a complicated affair with amazing possibilities and beautiful things what they provide, no doubt about that. But my point is, larger point is, how do we learn, how do we bring change?
Okay.
And within that, what could be the role of an institution or institution, those who are going? So if we take those lenses, my point is cities have to learn. Now in the last how many years? 20 years, many India's major city have got metro, correct?
Yes.
Why it happened? Why did not happen before? Because our population, traffic congestion issues, and the resultant problem which it was producing, it reached a certain benchmark that you had to go for next level of solution. Fine. So maybe something happened in our collective living behavior pattern that we forced each other to find a solution. A time has come. Something similar is happening. Maybe it will still take 50 years for India to start producing better open city parks. We still don't have. How many cities have good open spaces where people, children, young mothers, elderly people can safely, easily walk into that for the health, enjoyment, recreation, which we all like to have? We are still not there, is my point. So we are still passing through very survival stage of development or civilization, is my point.
Okay.
We are still struggling around those. So the how big changes will come, how our cities, which are a platform, cities are a very rich platform. People have to learn how to come together, integrate, collaborate, is my point, the point I'm trying to make. And if we open ourselves, because all this happened from my own learning, being here in Auroville, seeing how things change, how people put effort, they make effort on all count, communication, proposal, implementation, many things, creativity, beauty. So how some of these things in different contexts, different cities can take. So my answer to your question is, I have a firm faith. We need a dedicated group of people. Only a dedicated small group of people historically have been able to bring change. And this is what I see now. Otherwise everybody is busy running around their life, which is mostly stressful. So imagining solution, transformative changes coming from them may not be easy. So people, those who are dedicated, very focused, and those who have a burning fire within them, they want to bring changes in their surroundings. So if those kind of people come together, they will have necessary skills, abilities, and capacity to bring change. And once one example happens, if you see what NIU are doing, many other places are doing, once one city takes up good work, now India is undergoing a major change. Many railway stations are being modified. They are kind of getting a facelift and better, and escalators are coming. So many things are picking up, is my point. So one thing will lead to another, and many cities will pick up, let us say, better city living experiences in a step-by-step way. I don't know if it directly answers your question or
Yes,
not,
it does.
but
It does. Thank you, sir.
but something like that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Next.
Sir, I have a question.
Who is this? Sonam. Huh?
Sonam.
Sir, my question is that as individuals, sir, we always imagine a place, a community, somewhat like Auroville, because in cities we are facing all the kind of troubles. So how, is it possible for us as a small group of individuals or as individuals to bring that changes sir, changes that we can experience in life in the
Absolutely.
cities which we are compelled to live in? Or should we go to places like Auroville because
No,
every one
no,
of us can shift?
no. You can't. You should not run away from your context. No.
So kindly
That
answer.
no, I can I can answer, but the living reality I can answer in a simple way. So my very direct, truthful, and strong answer is learn to develop communities. I give you now example, and I know personally, a family cannot live together. People have a different way of thinking, ideas, mind. So the issues and families break. If I take the same analogy or perspective and apply in an institute, an institute today is a combination of people, those who are coming together to earn the wages. People
Yes.
are going because I'm getting a job. So doing a job has nothing to do with it being literally a missionary to bring a transformation in the living surrounding. I'm living here for 25 years. Many others, we have not been literally working. My income levels are like 1/10 of my batchmate. But I know how rich I am. My richness comes from somewhere else. And I like it and I value it and I would like to live like that.
Yes.
I have nothing to compare and compete even with my brother who has Audi and Fortuner. I go on cycle. My traveling distance from one place to another in Auroville is 5 minutes. What do I need here? Cycle. This is what I do and I like it.
Yes.
So knowing about self, if you pay attention to the triangle which I showed you, self, society, environment. A society is a combination of self, many selves. Each one of us is a cell of the body. Each cell has to work on themselves honestly, sincerely. What is the purpose of life? Where would you like to apply the force of your life? Otherwise, time to chala hi jayega, time will pass.
Yes.
So if you are focused, clear. So if you have chosen the line of academics, you are an agent who can try uplift the energy, the direction of a life of a young mind and boy and girl. So how you apply towards that? And now I'm coming to the second part of this question. Try, make all effort to make your campus sustainable.
Okay.
Now I'm giving you a tip. Don't think big, don't start big. It will not work. Like if you let me have a meeting with 30 faculty members in that meeting, the very first day your idea will be shot down. Because other people have other interest and other vision.
Yes.
So instead of all that, what I have learned from Auroville is you say, I am doing a project. Our university's college mission is stated in their website is progressive this, hum sab acha kaam karenge. It is mentioned. So I'm borrowing one line from that and I'm starting an initiative. So you have to be also tactful, smart, careful, not to get paralyzed. That much common sense we all need to develop.
Yes.
And then if you start developing a very simple, doable, what they call low hanging fruit, don't try to boil the ocean. No need. No, there is no need to boil the ocean. Start, I am doing a project. The walkability, I'm giving you an example. Walkability audit within 1 kilometer radius of our institute. Simple. It's an act of knowledge. It's an act of scholarly research. We are supposed to do, make drawings, do some audit, do some survey. Typically answer will come horrible. Area is not walkable. Now, when the problem is highlighted, it is like a disease. When disease has come on the table, you have to address it. No? Will you keep on living with disease? No. If we'll keep on living with the disease, can we call ourselves intelligent and refined human beings? I don't think so. So there is a way to approach a problem, is my point. And also in a careful, intelligent way. If you are committed and don't towards that, I am sure out of 50 faculty members, there might be 5 people, those who will join your hand. So that is the beginning of community. No need to break your head too much with the people, those who will always oppose your ideas. There is no need. Because we are not going for the route of confrontation. We are not doing that. It will come at a later stage. We'll see that. We'll cross the bridge when it comes. But take the way and the route in which you come up with certain creative, constructive meaningful, substantial work output, which will lead from one thing to another. Very simple things. I mean, imagine, God knows how many architecture students are studying in India. 10,000 in a given way. More.
I guess.
More than 500 college. More than
More
500 college. I think apart from SEPT, maybe a few more I have not seen. I find it literally, I'm using a hard word, literally pathetic and ashamed. Many colleges do good work. How come our students' good work is not available on the college website? All the college websites are full of admission advertisements. What are we giving back to society? And that is already there with you. I'm not asking you to again recreate the new moon. The studio has done the work, learn how to present, take the work back to the people, to the city, so that they know what is the value in architecture college adds to a society. We need to develop these kind of linkages and connection is my point, learning, or the point which I'm trying to make. Learning how to keep on AutoCAD drawings, chalta rahega wo sab to, they will learn. Actually, if you don't call them college and give them assignment, they will learn in 3 days. Things have changed today.
Right.
Does it answer your question more or less?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So running away is not a solution. It is always.
Never ever.
Yes.
Never
Thank
ever.
you.
Lalit sir, I have a question.
Boliye, madam.
Sir, how can we protect local communities in traditional Indian cities? Because these traditional Indian cities and their morphology is strongly getting impacted by the urbanization.
These are again in a way
Local communities, I mean to say the craft person or the local artisans.
Excellent.
Because of the urbanization and their business, their source of livelihood is getting affected. So they are running, which we are saying we should not run, but they are running.
I totally agree. I give you now one simple idea, or even I'm asking you a direct question. Have you ever organized a talk by some designer in your college, which shows how a young designer has done something, integrating the craft, which is kind of going away? So if it all depends upon what you feed to your mind. It's not that I'm asking you to know the answer. That is not my interest. My point is, how do we approach a particular so-called problem? Answer lies there. So if you ask me, not everybody can do everything. It is not possible. But what I'm dealing right now with you is, how do we develop sensitivity around certain topics, at least in the young mind, which are under your command, the students. If they get to see the possibility interaction of some successful business models, business is maybe right word or not right word, does not matter. If they see that there is a craft has a value, and how the craft is valued, organization on that. Develop the value system, organize the value on that, and based on that, if you make them see a person who says, I modified this is the way I do it, and I source from these people, and I have developed an app. I send the order, and the lady sitting 500 kilometers away, she can simply upload and they can directly ship. So all the work can be supported if they have a chain running. There is a flow in life. Their livelihood is dependent on that. So if you help them with the livelihood, simple. So there is an element of economy. So we need to make people aware of economic element, power, usefulness in our life. And we don't touch that in architecture. I mean, I consider it too much. It's like being amazingly ignorant. While this is a powerful tool to bring transformation, and how do you organize, how do you curate this learning experience is with you, your knowledge and skill for architecture students. I would suggest right away it should be minimum 50%. The existing architecture curriculum should be kept only minimum to 50%. 50% you put them in touch with the force of life, how things are changing, surroundings, Because anyway, I gave you one very interesting, I receive many groups here, no? 25,000 students I have met. So after I meet them, talk to them, I almost always ask a question. There will be a group of 40 students. How many of you will continue after 5th year in the field of architecture? In any related field? I just ask because I like to ask. Can you guess what is the answer? माधुरी मैम आप बताओ, आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ.
Sir, I guess
बोलो.
50% of them.
तो ये तो आप बता रहे हो जो आप मेन इस धंधे में हो पढ़ाने के. ठीक है.
The only thing is because sir, right now the student have this thought in mind that architecture is all about just designing buildings.
हमारा वो पॉइंट नहीं है. मेरा पॉइंट ये है, they are passing through the prime of their life when they are making decisions. Most sensitive time of their life, and if that track is not taken care, I'm not saying it's like I don't impose anything on my daughter in terms of she has grown from Auroville schools. She has not given any exam, but she's in USA studying based on her portfolio, and she got 90% scholarship. I have no expectation वो क्या करनी है, कहाँ शादी करनी है. I have no interference. Like I said, I take my freedom and I give freedom. Point is, if I apply the same logic on the young boys and girls, is that they are very amazing human beings. We have to treat them with a certain sense of friendliness and respect and consider giving them choices by which tomorrow they are the change maker, not suffocating people. Irrespective of anything, if you just look at this, I mean, they tell me 60, 70, 80% of the boys and girls, they show their hand ki architecture will leave, because they have not been given appropriate exposure how architectural knowledge and course could be so empowering. What they do tomorrow is anyway their business. My point is, if they are not handled well till they die, they will remain part of the problem. Do we want to continue living in a country when we have more people producing problems? And we expect things to become better. How will it happen? There is a magic wand? ऐसा तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. So approaching that problem, which is a known phenomenon, bringing it early on. And architecture is a creative, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. So we have a possibility of inducting some of those things, is my point which I'm trying to push forward. The way architect is like this, I always ask again an interesting question. You know, imagine you are in 1947. Desh Azad hua. How will you teach architecture? What will be your guiding value? We got freedom. Let us go back and take our motif and architectural thing and temple, Red Fort, God knows. We will take references from there. It is not 1947, it is 2022. What is your reference today to teach architecture? And I refuse to accept only interior design. No, that is not a reference. What is the guiding value? How will you? So climate change is today becoming one of the guiding value. Climate change is an umbrella term. I don't want to overemphasize. Actually, what we need to...
Climate change and social issues also?
That was my second point I was coming, and I presented that already in the second slide, when the UNESCO slide. Learning how to live, learning how to be, learning how to live together, learning how to bring change in self and society. These are the qualities which we need to address and work on. Whether via architecture, in family, in any case, this is my point. And if we can integrate them in architecture, that is a top class contribution. This is what my point is. Does it answer some of your question, Madhuri?
Yes, sir. Any more questions from the participants?
To ask one thing, sir.
बोलिए.
जैसे अर्बन एरियाज हैं दिल्ली वगैरह में, how can we involve local communities here in the urban cities? One
simple, I think your question is similar to what I think earlier people have asked. So my fundamental tip level answer would be, don't imagine as if in 1 year, 6 months, you will bring an enormous change. You will change the whole governance system. You will change the mindset of people. So sometime I say in my joking way, as per Hindu mythology, 9 avatars have come and gone, and we can see how much man has changed. Fine. So just find a solace in that. Gods have come and gone. We have changed whatever we have changed.
Yes.
So instead of us thinking very big and large, start honest, like asking a right question is half the solution. Do whatever is within your right and might. So you are a professor. So you explore the line of intelligence, exploration, truth seeking, creative solution providing. Now, how that will develop into an actually visualized solution, it is a matter of time and depends on many factors. So how in a very integrated way you can develop and design your exercise, that counts. Whatever you will do, it will bring out something. It will be a part of the solution. It can never be the whole solution. Accept it.
Right.
So, but अपना तो काम करो.
Yes, yes, yes.
अगर हमने अपना ही नहीं काम किया तो फिर कैसे काम चलेगा? It will not work.
No, I mean some suggestions from your side so that we can also implement them.
Implementation, you keep it in the line, but start approaching the topic like you start documenting, phrase some goal objective of whatever that your topic is. For example, I'm not aware what actually you mean by that, so I can't give a very specific comment. But if you put forward any very clear exercise, comment, this is the community, this is the problem, they don't have the water. So there are many elements to look into this. So on one hand, it will be a so-called problem solving thing for the community. The whole process will be a learning process for your students.
Right, sir.
So it's like two-way learning possibility.
Learning should be two-way only.
I mean, if you have something and if you want to let me know, I can come over to your place, but I prefer if a college has certain willingness to work.
Right.
Like we want to align, rechange, adapt, either with NEP, experiential learning, or whatever it is, because then it is more fun.
Yes, obviously it is. Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? I would like participants to ask some more questions.
Please switch on your camera. I request to all participants to switch on your camera. Please ask any question or doubt if you have to sir.
Kalaivani must be from Tamil Nadu. Kalaivani.
Yes, sir, from Tamil Nadu.
So I have learned this much Tamil.
Yes.
More than that, I will not be able to speak.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Akshay Sanyal.
Yes, sir.
Boliye.
Sir, as clearly been observed from your presentation that Auroville has already achieved the social sustainability kind of a thing. I want to know that exact mantra, that how you have convinced or how they have practiced that kind of sustainability in social level, how the two personnel from entirely different cultural background are actually sitting together and working together and interacting. I want to know what is that bridge that you have created, or that Auroville has successfully practiced, that we are lagging behind till this day.
It's an interesting but complex question. So I would not say Auroville has achieved and worked out full sustainability mantra. No, Auroville is a work in progress. But people, what is important is to know Auroville charter. Why? Like you can have a personal discussion with me some other time. Why am I here? Because half the answers will come from there. Why people are joining Auroville. So what is our call to join Auroville and to work for it kind of day and night in our own way, and not being attached to money, return, private property, because there is no ownership here. Nobody owns anything. So that is a separate, larger discussion is my point. And I'm not sure you people have time of that type today. If there is another time.
Sir, कभी अगर मौका मिले तो जरूर मिलेंगे.
मौका तो बनाने से बनता है, तुम आओ कभी यहाँ.
Sure, sir.
So there are different things. So my point is, even if you have a different viewpoint, but we are committed to a dialogue. But dialogue only has certain possibility, validity, and importance because you are only dialoguing. The mantra is engaging to transform. You have to go beyond dialogue and bring some change on the ground. Imagine if two people were only dialoguing with each other and talking in the beginning of first 20 years. Just by talking, the area would not have become green. No? So there is some genuine call in you, which you feel like doing some work by hand on the ground, going from mental to actual transformation. So that engagement, this is what I'm trying to mention across in my talk. Sense of engagement, you have to engage, involve. खाली दूर से बैठ के सोचना, intellectualize करना will not be part of solution. It will not help. Is my point.
Yes.
अंकुर बघेल जी, आप बहुत, you are nodding quite a lot. I'm just noticing where I don't see.
Yes, I was just
Suddenly it became black. What happened?
So there's an electricity failure in the fort right now.
As soon as I open my mouth, the current went off.
Yeah, it's back, sir. It's back.
Chalo, bolo. You were saying something?
Yeah, no, sir, I was just jotting down the points because somehow I have always felt that the starting or the beginning is always difficult. And Auroville has been an example. During my student days as well, I went to that place and it gives you that sense of being in an entirely different region, to be very frank.
One of the, because you touched upon this point, one of the simple, easy, low-hanging fruit, whatever you call, is to faculty can come here, you can bring your student group, at least that level of exposure, interaction, understanding, whatever I am seeing, I just, normally groups come for architecture orientation. I don't give them, I'm telling you the mantra secret, I never talk to them about architecture much. I take them on a different journey. I said architecture for me is a hardware, but it will only work